The rain hammered against Amara Johnson's windshield like bullets as she gripped the steering wheel of her battered Honda Civic. The wipers struggled against the downpour, creating a rhythmic squeak that matched her racing heartbeat. In the passenger seat, 3 sealed packages marked Urgent Peterson Industries bounced with every pothole she hit. Her phone buzzed relentlessly with missed calls from her dispatcher. Come on, she whispered, pressing harder on the accelerator. The digital clock on her dashboard read 2:47 p.m. She was 17 minutes late for what her supervisor had called the most important delivery of the year. Thunder crashed overhead as if the sky itself was angry at her delay. Amara's hands trembled slightly as she navigated through the flooded streets of downtown Chicago. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not with her mother's medical bills piling up and her younger brother's college tuition due next month. The Peterson Industries tower loomed ahead through the storm like a glass monument to success. 43 floors of gleaming steel and ambition. It housed one of the most powerful corporations in the Midwest. Today, she'd heard whispers from other drivers. There was a meeting happening that would change everything. A merger worth billions. As she pulled into the parking garage, water dripped from her uniform and her heart sank. She looked nothing like the polished executives who belonged in this world of marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Her reflection in the rearview mirror showed a young African-American woman with worried brown eyes and hair that had given up fighting the humidity hours ago. But Amara Johnson had never backed down from a challenge. Growing up in the South Side had taught her that sometimes you had to walk through storms to reach sunshine. She grabbed the packages, checked that each seal was intact, and stepped out into the echo of her own footsteps in the garage. What she didn't know was that upstairs, in a boardroom filled with men in $1,000 suits, her late arrival was about to trigger a chain of events that would cost someone $5.5 billion. Can you imagine walking into your biggest nightmare, knowing that one moment could change everything? Hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments what you would do if you were in Amara's shoes right now. The elevator ride to the 38th floor felt like ascending to heaven, if heaven smelled like expensive cologne and leather briefcases. Amara clutched the packages tighter as the numbers climbed higher. Her wet sneakers squeaked against the polished floor, a sound that seemed to announce her presence like a warning bell. She'd been inside corporate buildings before, but Peterson Industries was different. The walls were lined with awards and photos of CEO Richard Peterson shaking hands with politicians and celebrities. Crystal sculptures caught the light from massive windows that offered views of the entire city. Everything here cost more than most people made in a year. Delivery for the executive boardroom, Amara said to the receptionist, a woman whose makeup was so perfect it looked painted on. You're late, the receptionist replied without looking up from her computer. Her name tag read Jennifer, in elegant script. They've been calling down here for 20 minutes. I'm sorry. The storm. Mr. Peterson doesn't accept excuses. Jennifer's tone was ice cold. Especially not today. Do you have any idea how important this meeting is? Amara shook her head, water still dripping from her jacket onto the pristine carpet. She noticed how the other employees walking by gave her strange looks, as if she was contaminating their perfect world simply by existing in it. The Peterson-Thompson merger, Jennifer continued as if explaining to a child. $5.5 billion. The biggest deal in company history. And you, she looked Amara up and down with obvious disapproval, are holding it up. The weight of those words hit Amara like a punch to the stomach. $5.5 billion. She'd never even imagined that much money existing in one place, let alone being responsible for delaying it. I just need to deliver these packages, Amara said quietly. Wait here. Jennifer picked up her phone and spoke in hushed tones. After a moment, she hung up and turned back to Amara with a look that could freeze fire. They'll come get you when they're ready. Don't touch anything. Amara found herself standing in the corner of the reception area like a scolded child. Other employees walked past, their shoes clicking on the marble floor with confidence she'd never felt in her life. Their clothes fit perfectly, their hair was styled just right, and they belonged here in a way she never would. Through the glass doors, she could see into the boardroom where men in dark suits sat around a table that probably cost more than her car. At the head of the table sat a man with silver hair and cold blue eyes who kept checking his watch and frowning. Even from a distance, his impatience was obvious. That had to be Richard Peterson. She'd seen his photo in the business section of newspapers at the library. He was everything she'd expected a billionaire CEO to be: tall, intimidating, and completely removed from the struggles of ordinary people. As she waited, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to step into something much bigger than a simple package delivery. The storm outside had brought her here, but she sensed that an even bigger storm was brewing inside this golden tower. Inside the boardroom, Richard Peterson drummed his fingers on the mahogany table with barely contained irritation. Around him sat 12 of the most powerful business leaders in the country, but his attention was focused on one empty chair. The chair that should have been occupied by Andre Thompson. "Gentlemen," Peterson said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "I apologize for the delay. Mr. Thompson's flight was redirected due to the weather, but he should be arriving any moment." What the room didn't know was that Andre Thompson was already there. He sat quietly in the back corner, dressed not in the expensive suit they expected, but in simple black pants and a white button-down shirt. At 35 he looked younger than his billions suggested he should. His dark skin and calm demeanor made him nearly invisible among the crowd of assistants and junior executives who lined the walls. Peterson had never met Thompson in person. All their negotiations had been handled through lawyers and intermediaries. The mysterious billionaire was known for his unconventional methods and his refusal to play by traditional corporate rules. He'd built his empire from nothing, starting with a small delivery service that had grown into a logistics giant worth over $20 billion. "Sir," Jennifer's voice crackled through the intercom. "The delivery person is here with your packages." Peterson's jaw tightened. "Finally. Send them in, but make it quick. I don't want any interruptions once Mr. Thompson arrives." The men around the table shifted impatiently. They'd been waiting for nearly an hour and tensions were high. This merger would create the largest shipping and logistics company in North America. Peterson Industries would handle the corporate side while Thompson's company provided the operational expertise. It was a match made in financial heaven. "I still can't believe Thompson insisted on reviewing the physical contracts," muttered James Crawford, Peterson's chief financial officer. "Everything's digital these days." "Old school approach," Peterson replied with a dismissive wave. "Some of these self-made types never fully adapt to modern business practices. But his money spends just as well as anyone else's." From his position in the corner, Andre Thompson listened to every word. He'd specifically requested to review the physical contracts because he believed in the importance of paper trails and personal accountability. In his experience, people were more careful about what they signed when they had to hold the actual document in their hands. He'd also learned that you could tell a lot about a company by how they treated people they considered beneath them. That's why he'd arrived early and dressed down. He wanted to observe Peterson Industries in action before revealing his identity. The door opened and Andre straightened in his chair. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. How would Richard Peterson, the man who wanted to be his business partner for the next decade, treat a simple delivery person who'd been caught in a storm? The answer to that question was about to cost Peterson everything. Amara walked into the boardroom carrying the 3 packages like they were made of glass. The conversation stopped immediately, and 12 pairs of eyes turned toward her with expressions ranging from mild annoyance to outright hostility. The silence was so complete she could hear her own heartbeat. "About time," Peterson said, not bothering to stand. "Do you have any idea how much money you've cost us by being late?" "I'm sorry, sir. The storm." "I don't want to hear excuses." Peterson's voice cut through her explanation like a blade. He gestured impatiently for her to approach the table. "Just put the packages down and get out." Amara moved forward carefully, acutely aware that her wet shoes were leaving marks on the expensive carpet. She set the first package down gently, then reached for the second. "Faster," Peterson snapped. "We don't have all day." Her hands were shaking now, both from nervousness and cold. As she reached for the third package, it slipped slightly in her wet grip. She caught it quickly, but Peterson slammed his hand on the table. "Are you kidding me right now?" He stood up, his face reddening with anger. "You show up late, dripping all over my carpet, and now you're fumbling around with documents worth billions of dollars?" "Sir, I caught it. The package is fine." "The package is fine?" Peterson stepped closer, his voice rising. "Do you have any idea what's in there? Do you have even the slightest clue about the magnitude of what's happening in this room?" Amara felt her cheeks burn with shame as every person in the room stared at her. Some looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor and never be seen again. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Sorry doesn't cut it," Peterson continued, now playing to his audience. "This is exactly what's wrong with people like you. No sense of responsibility, no understanding of how the real world works. You're just too stupid to realize how stupid you are." The word hit Amara like a physical blow. Stupid. In front of all these powerful people, he'd called her stupid. Her mother had worked 3 jobs to keep Amara in school. Her teachers had called her gifted. She'd graduated in the top 10% of her class. But none of that mattered here, in this room where her worth was measured only by the designer labels she couldn't afford. You want to know what I think? Peterson wasn't finished. I think people like you are exactly what's holding this country back. No work ethic, no pride, just looking for handouts and making excuses when you can't even handle the simplest tasks. From the back corner of the room, Andre Thompson felt his blood pressure rising. He'd heard enough. Growing up in Detroit, he'd worked every job imaginable to support his family. Delivery driver, warehouse worker, janitor. He'd been treated exactly like this more times than he could count. And he'd sworn that if he ever had the power to stop it, he would. Peterson was still talking, his voice dripping with contempt. This is why I only hire people who understand excellence. People who know that in business there's no room for. That's enough. Andre's voice cut through the room like thunder. Peterson paused mid-sentence, looking around confused. I'm sorry, who said that? Andre stood up slowly, his calm presence suddenly commanding the attention of everyone in the room. I did. And who exactly are you? Peterson asked, irritation clear in his voice. Security should have cleared all non-essential personnel. My name, Andre said quietly, is Andre Thompson. The room went completely silent. Peterson's face went through several shades of pale as the realization hit him. This wasn't some random observer. This was his $5.5 billion partner. And he just spent the last 5 minutes demonstrating exactly the kind of person he really was. The silence in the room was deafening. Richard Peterson's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Around the table, the other executives looked back and forth between Peterson and Andre like they were watching a tennis match that would determine their financial futures. Mr. Thompson, Peterson finally managed, his voice suddenly much softer. Oh, we weren't expecting you to arrive so early. I thought. You thought you could treat another human being like garbage and I'd never know about it. Andre stepped forward, his presence filling the room despite his quiet demeanor. You thought wrong. Peterson's face was now red for entirely different reasons. Sir, if you'll let me explain. Explain what? How you just called a hard-working woman stupid because she got caught in a storm. Andre looked around the room, his gaze landing on each face. Is this how Peterson Industries treats people? With disrespect and cruelty? Amara stood frozen by the table, still holding the third package. She couldn't process what was happening. The man defending her was Andre Thompson. The Andre Thompson. She'd read about him in business magazines at the library. He'd started with nothing and built an empire, becoming one of the youngest billionaires in America. Let me tell you something about this woman, Andre continued, his voice carrying across the room. She drove through a dangerous storm to get your packages here. She could have been safe at home, but instead she risked her safety to do her job. That's not stupidity, Mr. Peterson. That's dedication. He turned to address the entire room. I grew up poor. My first job was delivering newspapers when I was 12 years old. I've worked in warehouses, driven delivery trucks, cleaned offices. At night while going to school during the day. I know what it's like to be looked down on by people who think money makes them better than everyone else. Peterson was sweating now, realizing his massive mistake. Mr. Thompson, please. This was just a misunderstanding. We can't. No misunderstanding, Andre cut him off. You showed me exactly who you are. And I believe people when they show me their true character. He looked directly at Amara, his expression softening. Ma'am, I apologize that you had to experience that. No one should be treated the way he just treated you. Amara found her voice for the first time. Thank you. Andre nodded, then turned back to Peterson. As for our business relationship, Mr. Peterson, I'm afraid there won't be one. The room erupted in hushed whispers. Peterson stepped forward desperately. Sir, please reconsider. This deal is dead. Andre's voice was final. I don't do business with people who lack basic human decency. I don't partner with companies that create hostile environments for working people. He picked up his coat from the back of his chair. My lawyers will be in touch to finalize the cancellation. James Crawford, the CFO, jumped up. Mr. Thompson, surely we can work something out. Mr. Peterson was just having a bad day? A bad day doesn't turn a good person cruel, Andre replied. It just reveals who they really were all along. He walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and gentlemen, you might want to start looking for new jobs. Without this merger, Peterson Industries won't survive the next fiscal quarter. As Andre reached the door, he looked back at Amara. Miss, would you mind walking out with me? I'd like to speak with you privately if you have a moment. Amara nodded, still in shock. As they left the boardroom together, behind them Peterson collapsed into his chair, watching $5.5 billion walk out the door. The storm outside was finally beginning to clear. The elevator ride down was silent except for the soft hum of machinery. Amara kept glancing at Andre, trying to process that she was standing next to one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country. He seemed so normal, so approachable, nothing like the intimidating figure she'd imagined from magazine photos. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," Andre said as they descended past the 20th floor. "No one deserves to be spoken to that way, especially not someone who was just doing their job." "It's okay," Amara replied quietly, though they both knew it wasn't. "No, it's not okay. And it's not something you should have to just accept." He looked at her with genuine concern. "Can I ask your name?" "Amara Johnson." "Amara. That's beautiful. It means eternal, doesn't it?" She nodded, surprised he knew. "My grandmother chose it." "Smart woman." The elevator reached the ground floor with a soft ding. "Amara, would you mind if we talked for a few minutes? Maybe grab some coffee? I know you probably need to get back to work, but I'd like to make sure you're all right." As they walked through the lobby, Amara could see Peterson Industries employees huddled in groups, whispering urgently. Word was already spreading about what had happened upstairs. Phone calls were being made. Panic was setting in. "Is it true?" she asked as they stepped outside. The rain had stopped and weak sunlight was breaking through the clouds. "What you said about the company not surviving?" Andre nodded grimly. "Peterson Industries has been struggling financially for 2 years. This merger was their lifeline. Without it, they'll likely file for bankruptcy within 6 months." They found a small coffee shop across the street from the Peterson building. Inside it was warm and cozy, filled with the smell of fresh pastries and the gentle murmur of conversation. Andre ordered 2 coffees and found them a quiet table by the window. "Can I ask you something?" Andre said as they settled into their seats. "What made you take that delivery job?" Amara wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, grateful for the warmth. "I need the money. My mom has diabetes and her medical bills are expensive. My little brother Jerome is starting college next semester. The delivery service pays better than most jobs I can get with just a high school diploma." "Just a high school diploma? No college?" "I had to choose. College for me or helping my family survive." She shrugged as if it was no big deal, but Andre could see the sacrifice behind her casual tone. It wasn't really a choice. Andre leaned back in his chair, studying her face. There was something about Amara that reminded him of himself at her age. The determination mixed with resignation. The pride that refused to be broken even when the world seemed stacked against you. "What would you study if you could go to college?" he asked. "Business administration. Maybe marketing." Her eyes lit up for the first time since he'd met her. "I have all these ideas about how companies could better connect with their customers, especially in underserved communities. But it's just dreaming, you know? Dreams are only dreams until someone makes them reality." Andre pulled out his business card and slid it across the table. "Amara, I'd like to offer you a job." She stared at the card like it might disappear if she touched it. "Mr. Thompson, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't need charity." "This isn't charity. This is me recognizing talent and work ethic when I see it." He leaned forward. "I need someone in my customer relations department. Someone who understands what it's like to struggle, who knows how to treat people with respect regardless of their circumstances. The pay is $60,000 a year to start, with full benefits and tuition reimbursement for evening classes." Amara's coffee cup trembled in her hands. 60,000 was more money than she'd ever imagined making. "I don't understand. You don't even know me." "I know enough. I know you drove through a dangerous storm to deliver packages on time. I know you handled Richard Peterson's abuse with grace and dignity. I know you're putting your family's needs ahead of your own dreams." He smiled. "That tells me everything I need to know about your character." Outside the window they could see employees streaming out of the Peterson Industries building, many of them carrying boxes of personal belongings. The fallout from Andre's decision was swift and decisive. "Think about it," Andre said gently. "You don't have to decide right now. But Amara, you deserve better than being treated the way you were treated today. And I think you have the potential to accomplish amazing things if someone just gives you the opportunity." As they sat in the warm coffee shop, watching the Peterson empire crumble across the street, neither of them realized they were witnessing the beginning of something much more significant than a business deal. They were witnessing the first chapter of a love story that would change both of their lives forever. 3 days later, Amara sat in her small apartment kitchen, staring at Andre Thompson's business card. She'd placed it on the table next to a stack of medical bills and her brother's college acceptance letters. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. On one side, the weight of financial reality, on the other, what felt like an impossible dream. "You should call him," her mother, Patricia Johnson, said from the living room where she was organizing pill bottles. "That man saw something in you, baby. Maybe it's time you saw it too. Mama, it's too good to be true. People like us don't get opportunities like this." Patricia walked into the kitchen, moving slowly due to her condition, but her eyes were sharp with the wisdom of someone who'd fought hard for everything she had. "Amara, baby, I didn't work 3 jobs raising you so you could think small about yourself. That man didn't offer you that job out of pity. He offered it because he recognized quality." The apartment was tiny but spotless, filled with second-hand furniture that Patricia had somehow made feel like home. Family photos covered every surface, showing Amara's graduations, Jerome's basketball games, moments of joy captured despite financial struggles. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I mess up?" Amara's voice was small, vulnerable in a way she rarely allowed herself to be. "Then you learn from it and do better next time. That's what successful people do." Patricia sat down across from her daughter. "You think Andre Thompson never made mistakes building his empire? You think he never had moments when he doubted himself?" That afternoon, Amara found herself standing outside Thompson Logistics headquarters, a modern building that managed to feel both impressive and welcoming. Unlike Peterson Industries' cold marble and glass, this place had warm wood accents and large windows that let in natural light. The lobby featured photos of employees from every department, not just executives. "Ms. Johnson?" The receptionist, a friendly woman named Carol, smiled warmly. "Mr. Thompson is expecting you. Can I get you anything? Coffee, water?" The difference in treatment was immediately obvious. At Peterson Industries, she'd been made to feel like an intruder. Here, she was treated like a welcomed guest. Andre's office surprised her. Instead of the intimidating setup she'd expected, it was comfortable and functional. The walls were covered with photos from various company locations, showing Andre working alongside employees from every level. There were pictures of him loading trucks, attending staff meetings, even serving food at a company picnic. "Amara, thank you for coming." Andre stood up from his desk, genuine warmth in his smile. "Please have a seat. I'm glad you decided to call." "I almost didn't," she admitted. "What changed your mind?" "My mother. She reminded me that I can't help my family by playing it safe." Amara took a deep breath. "Mr. Thompson, I want to accept your offer, but I need you to know that I don't have experience in corporate customer relations." "You have something better than experience. You have empathy." Andre pulled out a folder from his desk. "Let me tell you what this job actually involves. You'd be working with our community outreach program, helping us build relationships with small businesses in underserved areas. Places like the neighborhood where you grew up." As he explained the position, Amara felt her excitement growing. This wasn't just a job, it was a chance to make a real difference in communities that were often overlooked by big corporations. "We'd start you with a mentor, someone to help you learn our systems and processes. And the tuition reimbursement I mentioned? That kicks in immediately. You could start classes this fall if you wanted." "This seems too generous," Amara said carefully. "What's the catch?" Andre laughed, a sound that was genuine and infectious. "No catch. Just high expectations. I don't hire people to do mediocre work, Amara. If you take this job, I'll expect excellence. But I'll also give you every tool and opportunity you need to achieve it." They spent the next hour going over details, discussing her role and the company culture. Andre talked about his philosophy of business, how he believed that treating employees well wasn't just morally right, it was also the smartest way to build a successful company. "I started Thompson Logistics because I wanted to prove that you could run a profitable business while also doing right by your workers and your community," he explained. "Every person we hire makes us stronger, brings new perspectives and ideas that help us grow." As the meeting concluded, Amara felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. Real, tangible hope for a better future. "There's one more thing," Andre said as he walked her to the door. "The company has a tradition. Every new hire's first week includes lunch with me. Just a chance to talk, get to know each other better, make sure you're settling in okay." "Is that company policy?" Amara asked. "It is now," Andre replied with a smile that made her heart skip just a little bit faster. As she left the building that day, Amara Johnson felt like she was stepping into a completely new life. What she didn't realize was that Andre Thompson was feeling exactly the same way. What would you do if someone believed in you more than you believed in yourself? Drop a comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to the most beautiful changes. Amara's first day at Thompson Logistics began at 8 a.m. sharp, but she'd been awake since 5, choosing and re-choosing her outfit. She'd finally settled on a navy blue dress that her mother had helped her pick out, simple but professional, paired with the one pair of heels she owned. "Welcome to the team," Carol greeted her in the lobby. "Mr. Thompson asked me to show you around before you meet with your mentor." The building tour revealed everything Amara had sensed about the company culture. The break rooms were stocked with free snacks and coffee. There was a small library where employees could borrow books. Most importantly, everywhere she looked, she saw people who looked like her neighbors, like her family. This wasn't just a company that talked about diversity, it was one that lived it. "And this is your office," Carol said, opening a door to reveal a small but bright space with a window overlooking the city. "Your mentor, Lisa Rodriguez, will be by in a few minutes to get you started." Amara stood in the doorway, hardly believing it. Her office. She had an office with her name on a nameplate and everything. She thought about calling her mother, then realized Patricia was probably still asleep after working a late shift at the hospital cafeteria. "You must be Amara." A warm voice interrupted her thoughts. Lisa Rodriguez was a woman in her early 40s with kind eyes and an infectious smile. "I'm Lisa, and I'm so excited to work with you. Andre told me about your background, and I think you're going to bring exactly the perspective we need to our community outreach program." The first week passed in a blur of training sessions, introductions, and learning the company's systems. Amara discovered that Thompson Logistics wasn't just about shipping packages. It was about connecting communities, supporting small businesses, and creating opportunities for economic growth in areas that had been forgotten by larger corporations. "Your first assignment," Lisa explained on Friday morning, "is to develop a proposal for expanding our services to 3 new neighborhoods on the south side. Andre specifically requested that you handle this project." Amara felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with excitement. "He requested me specifically?" He said, and I quote, "Amara understands these communities in a way that no amount of market research can teach us. I want her perspective on how we can best serve these areas." That afternoon, Amara found herself back in neighborhoods that looked like the one where she'd grown up. But instead of feeling trapped by the familiar sights of struggled businesses and empty lots, she felt energized. She saw potential. She saw opportunities. At Rodriguez Auto Repair, she talked with Miguel Rodriguez about the challenges of getting parts delivered quickly and affordably. At Sunshine Grocery, Mrs. Washington explained how expensive shipping costs made it hard for her to stock certain items her customers wanted. At the community center, Director Johnson talked about their struggles to receive donations and supplies for their after-school programs. These people aren't just potential customers, Amara realized as she drove back to the office. They're my people. My community. Her proposal took shape over the weekend, written at her kitchen table while her mother offered encouragement and Jerome helped with research. When she presented it to Lisa on Monday morning, her mentor's eyes widened with admiration. "This is incredible, Amara. You've identified service gaps that our market research completely missed. And your pricing structure for small businesses is brilliant. Do you think Mr. Thompson will like it?" "I think he's going to be amazed. In fact, he's asked to meet with you this afternoon to review it personally." The lunch meeting that Andre had promised turned into a working lunch in his office. Chinese takeout containers spread across his conference table while Amara presented her findings. As she talked, she watched Andre's face, trying to read his reactions. "So you're suggesting we create a separate pricing tier specifically for community businesses?" he asked, leaning forward with interest. "Yes, but not as charity. As investment. These businesses, if they can get reliable, affordable service, they'll grow. When they grow, they need more services. When they succeed, the whole community benefits, which creates more potential customers for us." Andre was quiet for a long moment, studying her proposal. Then he smiled, the kind of smile that reached his eyes and made Amara's heart do that little skip again. "Amara, this is exactly why I hired you. You see connections and possibilities that someone like me, despite all my good intentions, might miss." He closed the folder and looked directly at her. "I want to implement this plan. All of it. Really? Really? And I want you to lead the implementation team. This is your vision, and you should be the one to make it reality." As they cleaned up the takeout containers, their conversation shifted from business to more personal topics. Andre asked about her family, her dreams, her impressions of the company. Amara found herself relaxing, laughing at his stories about his early days in business, sharing her own hopes for the future. "Can I ask you something?" Amara said as their lunch meeting stretched into the late afternoon. "Anything. Why did you really hire me? And please don't say it was just about recognizing talent." Andre was quiet for a moment, looking out the window at the city below. "Because you reminded me of myself at your age. Hungry, determined, but convinced that people like us don't get chances like this." He turned back to her. "And because when Peterson was tearing you down, you didn't fight back with anger or bitterness. You maintained your dignity. That kind of strength is rare." "I wanted to fight back," Amara admitted. "I wanted to tell him exactly what I thought of his attitude. But you didn't? Because you're smart enough to know that sometimes the most powerful response to cruelty is grace." Andre's voice was soft, admiring. "That's not weakness, Amara. That's wisdom." As she prepared to leave his office, Andre walked her to the door. "Same time next week?" he asked, referring to their lunch meeting. "Is that still company policy?" she asked with a small smile. "For you, it is," he replied, and there was something in his voice that made her think this was about more than just business mentoring. Walking to her car that evening, Amara felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer weather. For the first time in years, she was excited about tomorrow. 2 months into her new position, Amara had found her rhythm at Thompson Logistics. Her community outreach program was exceeding all expectations, bringing in new clients while genuinely improving services to underserved neighborhoods. More importantly, she was thriving in ways she'd never imagined possible. "The Rodriguez proposal is brilliant," Lisa said, reviewing Amara's latest project during their weekly check-in. "You've managed to increase their delivery efficiency by 40% while reducing their costs by 25%. Andre is going to be thrilled." The weekly lunches with Andre had become the highlight of Amara's week. What had started as professional mentoring had evolved into something deeper, though neither of them had acknowledged it directly. They talked about business, yes, but also about their families, their dreams, their perspectives on everything from community development to their favorite books. "How's Jerome doing in college?" Andre asked during their lunch that Friday, as they sat in a small cafe near the office instead of the conference room they'd been using. "He loves it. His business classes are challenging, but he's doing well." Amara smiled proudly. "He calls me every Sunday to tell me about what he's learning. Last week he said he wants to start his own company someday, just like you. Smart kid. He's lucky to have you looking out for him. I'm lucky to have this job that makes it possible." Amara paused, then decided to be brave. "Andre, can I tell you something?" "Always." 6 months ago, I thought my life was going to be the same forever. Working multiple jobs, struggling to pay bills, watching my dreams get smaller every year." She met his eyes. "You didn't just give me a job. You gave me back my future." Andre reached across the table and briefly touched her hand. The gesture was simple, but it sent electricity through both of them. "You gave yourself your future, Amara. I just recognized what was already there." That afternoon, Amara was working on a presentation when Carol knocked on her office door. "Amara? There's someone here to see you." To her surprise, Patricia Johnson stood in the lobby, dressed in her best outfit and looking nervous but determined. "Mama? What are you doing here? Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, baby. I just wanted to see where my daughter works." Patricia looked around the lobby with obvious pride. "And I wanted to meet this Mr. Thompson who's been so good to our family." Before Amara could respond, Andre appeared from the elevator. He'd spotted Patricia through his office window and come down immediately. "You must be Mrs. Johnson," he said, extending his hand with genuine warmth. "I'm Andre Thompson. I've heard so much about you." "Mr. Thompson." Patricia shook his hand firmly, studying his face with the sharp eyes of a mother protecting her child. "I came to thank you personally for what you've done for my daughter." "Your daughter has done everything herself, ma'am. I just provided the opportunity." "That's exactly what she said you'd say." Patricia smiled, and Amara could see her mother's approval in her expression. "Mr. Thompson, would you mind if I asked you to lunch? I'd like to get to know the man who believes in my daughter so much." Andre glanced at Amara, who nodded with a mixture of embarrassment and pride. "I'd be honored, Mrs. Johnson." Watching her mother and Andre talk over lunch, Amara saw something beautiful happening. Two people who'd worked hard for everything they had, recognizing and respecting each other despite their different circumstances. Patricia told stories about raising her children alone, working multiple jobs to keep them fed and in school. Andre shared his own memories of growing up poor, of his mother's sacrifices to help him get ahead. "You remind me of my mother," Andre told Patricia as they finished their meal. Strong, determined, willing to do whatever it takes for her children. And you remind me of what I always hoped my Amara might find, Patricia replied. Someone who sees her worth. After Patricia left, Amara and Andre walked back to the office in comfortable silence. Finally, Amara spoke. She likes you. I like her too. And her daughter. Andre stopped walking and turned to face Amara. Amara, I need to tell you something, and I hope it doesn't make things complicated between us. Her heart began racing. What is it? These lunches we've been having, the time we spent together, it stopped being just about business weeks ago. At least for me. His voice was careful, uncertain. I think I'm falling for you and I needed you to know. Amara felt like the world had tilted on its axis. Andre. I know it's complicated. I'm your boss, there are professional considerations, power dynamics. He ran a hand through his hair. But I also know that I've never met anyone who challenges me and inspires me the way you do. I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. Standing on the sidewalk outside Thompson Logistics, with the afternoon sun warming her face and the man she'd been falling for over the past 2 months looking at her with hope and vulnerability in his eyes, Amara made a decision that would change everything. I've been falling for you too, she whispered. I just didn't think someone like you could ever feel that way about someone like me. Someone like me? Andre stepped closer. Amara, you are the most remarkable woman I've ever met. You're brilliant, kind, strong, and beautiful inside and out. I'm the one who can't believe someone like you might give someone like me a chance. When he kissed her, right there on the busy Chicago sidewalk, it felt like coming home and starting an adventure at the same time. It felt like the beginning of something beautiful. 6 months later, the Thompson Logistics annual company celebration was in full swing. The ballroom of the Palmer House Hilton was filled with employees from every level of the company, all celebrating a year of record growth and community impact. The success of Amara's community outreach program had been featured in business magazines and copied by competitors across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, Andre said from the podium, looking handsome in his black tuxedo. Tonight we're not just celebrating our financial success, though I'm proud to say we've exceeded every projection for the 3rd consecutive year. Applause filled the room. Amara, stunning in a midnight blue dress that Andre had insisted on buying for her despite her protests, watched from a table near the front with her mother, Jerome, and several colleagues who'd become close friends. We're celebrating something more important, Andre continued. We're celebrating the proof that businesses can thrive while doing right by their employees and their communities. We're celebrating the idea that success isn't just about profit margins, but about making a positive difference in people's lives. His eyes found Amara in the crowd and his smile became more personal. This year, our community outreach program, led by our Director of Community Relations, Amara Johnson, has helped over 300 small businesses improve their operations while creating jobs and opportunities in underserved neighborhoods. Amara, would you please stand? The applause that followed was thunderous. Amara rose gracefully, acknowledging the recognition with the poise she'd developed over the past months of success and confidence building. But tonight, Andre said as the applause died down, I want to talk about a different kind of delivery. Not packages or documents, but something much more precious. He stepped away from the podium and walked toward Amara's table, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom sound system. Almost exactly 1 year ago, a young woman walked into the Peterson Industries building carrying 3 packages. She was late because of a storm, because she'd refused to let bad weather stop her from doing her job, and determined despite facing circumstances that would have defeated someone with less character. Amara's heart began racing as she realized where this was heading. That day, I watched her handle cruelty with grace, maintain her dignity in the face of humiliation, and show strength that had nothing to do with power or position. Andre stopped beside her table and extended his hand. Amara, would you join me? On trembling legs, Amara stood and took his hand. As he led her to the center of the room, she was vaguely aware of the murmur of excitement from the crowd, but her focus was entirely on Andre. The packages you delivered that day were important business documents, Andre said, his voice now soft enough that the crowd had to lean in to hear. But what you really delivered to my life was something infinitely more valuable. He dropped to one knee and the ballroom erupted in gasps and whispers. From his pocket he pulled out a small velvet box. You delivered hope when I'd forgotten what it felt like to truly connect with someone. You delivered inspiration through your dedication and your dreams. You delivered joy every time you laughed at my terrible jokes. His voice broke slightly with emotion. And you delivered love, Amara. The kind of love I thought existed only in stories. Tears were streaming down Amara's face as Andre opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Amara Johnson, you are the most extraordinary woman I have ever known. You've made me a better man and a better leader. You've shown me that the most important deliveries aren't about business at all, they're about bringing out the best in each other." He looked up at her with eyes full of love and certainty. "Will you marry me?" The ballroom was completely silent except for the sound of Amara's quiet sobs of joy. She looked down at this incredible man who'd seen her worth when she couldn't see it herself, who'd given her opportunities she'd never dreamed of, who'd loved her not despite her background but because of the strength it had given her. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Andre. Yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, the ballroom exploded in cheers and applause. Through her tears of happiness, Amara saw her mother crying with joy, Jerome whistling and cheering, and hundreds of colleagues celebrating not just their engagement but the beautiful love story they'd all witnessed unfold. Later that night, as they stood on the balcony of Andre's penthouse apartment, looking out over the city lights, Amara thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. "Do you ever think about that day at Peterson Industries?" she asked, wrapped in Andre's arms. "Every day," he replied, kissing the top of her head. "Best delivery I ever received. I was so scared that day. I thought my life was falling apart. Instead, it was falling into place. We just didn't know it yet." Andre turned her to face him. "You know what I love most about our story?" "What?" "You delivered something to me that I didn't even know I needed. And now I get to spend the rest of my life delivering happiness back to you." As they kissed under the stars, neither of them noticed the small brass nameplate that Andre had saved from that day at Peterson Industries, now mounted on his desk as a reminder of how the most important moments in life often come disguised as ordinary deliveries. The nameplate simply read, "Amara Johnson, Director of Community Relations." But to Andre, it would always represent something much more precious. The day love walked into his life, carrying packages and hope in equal measure. 6 months later, the wedding was featured in business magazines not because of Andre's wealth, but because of the couple's decision to hold it in the community center where Amara had first proposed expanding Thompson Logistics services. The reception was catered by local businesses from their outreach program. The flowers came from the neighborhood shop that had grown from a tiny storefront to a thriving business with their help, and the music was provided by the youth orchestra from Jerome's old high school. It was, everyone agreed, the perfect delivery of love, hope, and community coming together to celebrate two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way. And Richard Peterson? 6 months after losing the Thompson merger, Peterson Industries filed for bankruptcy. But in a twist that even Andre hadn't expected, Peterson himself reached out with a heartfelt apology and a request to work for Thompson Logistics in any capacity, having learned valuable lessons about leadership, respect, and the true meaning of success. Andre, after much consideration and a conversation with Amara about the power of second chances, gave him a position in customer service, where he slowly rebuilt his character by learning to treat every person with the dignity he'd failed to show that stormy day.